Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Start Marketing Podcast. This is Joe Sanders. Thanks again for being with us. We really appreciate it. Today, I have a special guest. John Meier is with us again. He's going to help us dive into the equation of conversions. And that's something we're going to solve for you today. As I do at the beginning of all of our podcast episodes, I want to tell you that we are using a 5-step system today that's going to help us be successful in our digital marketing. The 5 steps are to find the right audience, create the right content, promote your business as a brand, use ample resources, and analyze the results. Those are the system that we have together in what we like to call Stop Posting, Start Marketing. We have a bunch of other episodes that will dive into each one of those topics, as well as interesting little tidbits of information and interesting little paths we're going to go on like today. There's also a book on Amazon called Stop Posting, Start Marketing, written by me that you can get. It can help you through this process. There's even a worksheet in the back that can walk you through and help any business or organization be successful in digital marketing by having the right strategy. Wow, that was a mouthful. So let's dive into this today. Today, we're going to be going through the conversion equation. Now, John's with us today, and John is a Google expert. This is somebody who knows all about Google AdWords. He understands SEO. He knows how to build websites and landing pages and all these things. But before we get to John, I guess I'll let you say something, John. John, welcome to the podcast. We're glad you're here. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be here, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. So to start, let's talk about what a conversion is, because some of you might be sitting there and thinking, are you guys like Jehovah's Witnesses here trying to convert me? That's not what we're talking about, guys. Or it's conversion. Let me just start by saying this. A conversion is what you define a conversion to be. Okay. Everybody's conversion is going to be different, but conversion is, in marketing terms, what it is you want your customer to do when they find you. Okay. So a conversion could be, give me your email address to be added to my newsletter list. If your goal is to collect somebody's email address to add to your newsletter list, that would be a successful conversion. A conversion might be, make a purchase of this t-shirt on my website. So I click through my equation, I go to the website and I buy something, and on and on and on. So conversions could be something that are very complicated and very heavy per se. They could also be something very simple. It just depends on what it is you want them to do. But here's the point. Most of the time, conversions are not click to go to my website. That's really not a conversion. That's a click to go to your website, or it's a view of my ad on Facebook, or it's this, that, and the other thing. It's watching my video. And I'm not saying that those aren't conversions, but most of the time when businesses want to be successful in digital marketing, they're going to define a conversion that has something centered around revenue or lead generation. Revenue meaning that somebody made a purchase and we got money from this person. And other times, I collected somebody's information who wants to do business with me in the future. So let's start here, John. Let's talk about Google Ads. And why don't you walk people through kind of the process of, when you set up a Google ad, and let's just kind of go a little bit further down the road and say that we've already kind of created our Google AdWords campaign. We're running it. We're getting clicks and clicks and clicks. But what is the best practices for actually getting people to do something more than just click on an ad? What do you do with your clients?
Yeah, and I think you made an important distinction there. We may have talked about this before, but a click, it's good. That's a start, right? You're getting a click to the website or landing page from your ad. But not all clicks are created equal. I think I'm going to start there. I think it's very important to look at the quality of clicks. Google allows you to see the exact keywords you're paying for those clicks. So I think that is something really important for any business to look at and understand, to see what keywords are getting clicks to their site. Mm-hmm. So then from there, you really got to start looking at conversions. Mm-hmm. And just circling back, just staying with the clicks here for a minute, I think this is why it's really easy to show we got you a ton of clicks to your site, right? Your Google ads on the surface look like they're doing excellent, but they might not be. And this ties into what you're talking about. It's because those clicks aren't converting.
Right.
Now, best practices on Google, I would say, for conversions. Google has a lot of different conversion metrics that you could set up. The two that we use the most are going to be a call or a contact form on your site. And I will say, in my experience, it's going to be very much weighted towards phone calls from contact forms. Now, those calls can be broken down into two different types of calls, we'll say. One of them would be a call from a phone number on your site. The other one would be a call directly from the ad. So what that means is Google has, they're called click to calls. So you could just click on that ad and make the call to that business. Now, again, there's a lot of other conversion metrics you could set up in Google. I would say those are most likely going to be the two most common for businesses.
Yeah.
A call or a contact form.
Right. And when you do that now, without getting too technical, when you set up your Google ads, you can track this by putting some code on the page, the web page you're going to, so that you can actually see where people are coming from when they're doing this. I even heard you can even record the phone calls that people are making when they're calling through that number. How does that work?
I believe that is a new feature that Google has offered. We have not used that yet. You could use other platforms for your call tracking, such as probably the most popular one. It's called CallRail. And that will kind of just assign specific numbers and attach your Google Ads accounts. Now, one thing to think about when you are going that route is, that it will not be your business number listed when people see those ads. So you could argue there's pros and cons to that, but I would say the ability to at a minimum just kind of understand when you're getting calls and conversions, I would say that outweighs not having your business number on there, again, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have your actual business number on your Google My Business listing and on your website and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, but Google does have, going back to your question, Google does have some of those features. Again, I think though that could be relatively new. It's not something we've set up. What we typically do is work through Google Analytics for the contact form tracking, and then Google allows you directly in Google Ads to set up some very simple code that you add to your site that will allow you to track the phone numbers. So again, you'll know then, hey, this keyword, this campaign got that phone call or led to that contact form. And again, very important things to understand, because you could start seeing, hey, what's actually converting here? What does this look like? And again, really helps you understand whether a campaign is working or not.
Yeah, great. And so I think the call aspect of this, obviously, it probably depends on what kind of business you are, because sure, if you're a service-based company, maybe even something like what we do, a lot of times what we're looking for is we want people to call us so that we can have a conversation with them and potentially sell them. That's really more of a lead generation platform. But I don't know if a lot of people really understand that if you're an online business or you're selling something online, we can really, by putting some code on your webpage, we can track them from Google Ads all the way through the process to actually tell us how much money somebody had actually spent on that campaign. We're working on a project right now, and it's really interesting. We have these things set up we have people coming to our webpage from 10 different entities. Some is affiliate marketing, social media, landing pages, which we're going to get into in a minute. And we can actually track those clicks to our website and then break down how many people actually purchased from that website, and not so much that they purchased, but actually how much money that they spent. So if our goal is conversion based on a sale or some kind of a transaction they're doing online, and you don't have this kind of stuff set up in your system, I mean, this is really what you need in order to see, hey, I'm trying to pull traffic from 4 or 5 different places. I can't really vet which one's doing better than the other. And so if you have this set up that way, and to be honest with you, it's a little complicated to set up. It's not like the easiest thing in the world to do, but get with your developer, give us a call. It's a company like a marketing company, they can help you do that. And then back to the calls thing too, because we have a client that we're working with who had set up a Google AdWords previously, and they're a service-based business. It's like medical care kind of thing. And they were spending a lot of money on Google AdWords. And I kind of asked them how it's going and if it's working. And the first thing she said is, but a lot of people, she goes, well, I'm getting a lot of clicks. And I said, oh, so you're not tracking. And so going back to what you said, so then what we did for the client is we said, we can track the phone calls. We can do all this stuff, and we can track the people filling out the form. In order to do that, though, we had to create a landing page.
Yep.
So John, why don't you tell us a little bit, people that don't know, kind of like, what is a landing page? How does it differ from a website? And why is that important when you're trying to convert people online?
Sure. No, that's a great point. So I would say with most of our Google ad campaigns, we do send the traffic to a landing page.
Mm-hmm.
And how that's going to differ from your website is landing pages typically are what they sound. They're not going to have a lot of pages to them. Typically a website, you're going to have, a lot of different pages and different, information on there, where a landing page is going to be more focused on whatever that offer is. Now we typically, you can go break landing pages into a couple different segments as well. I would say most of what we do is more of a long form landing page. And when I say long form, a better put would be like a 1-page website. So we put a decent amount of information on our landing pages. You could do very simple landing pages where it's just like, maybe a simple contact form and things like that. I have seen that, I've done that, but mostly we're going to do, it's more like a 1-page, version of your site that kind of gives a decent amount of information. Because I will say this, and this is just my theory on this. I do think there's a lot of benefit, believe it or not, to running Google ads to your actual website, even versus a landing page. And that's going to get into things like site link extensions that Google ads offers that you could have. When you see Google ads, if you'll notice, sometimes Google ads will actually look like if you were just pulling up a website in an organic search. So it'll have all these like drop downs underneath with different sections of the website you could click through to. So it does make your ad stand out more if you have those site link extensions, but you are going to need pages on your site for those site link extensions. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to get too complicated here. But with that being said, most of the time you're going to not be able to do I'll better say it like this. Most websites aren't set up that great for conversions. Right. So if your site, if your website was built with conversions in mind, you could send traffic to your website. If your site isn't, which is what I feel like we deal with a lot, where that's when we go in and it will just build you a very conversion focused landing page. Again, maybe you lose a little bit on the ad itself because you can't have things like site link extensions, but you're going to gain a lot in terms of focus on the page. Like you just said, a lot more tracking, a lot more understanding of what's happening on that.
That's so important because a lot of people don't build their websites with the conversions in mind. So you might have this beautiful website and it might be a crazy informational website. Maybe your business is something that is somewhat complicated or involved and it requires a lot of information, a lot of pages, a lot of videos and stuff like that. That's great. And when people want to find you, they will, and they'll get the information that they need. But when you're running a marketing campaigns have to have specific reasons for them to run. And sometimes informational or branding is the reason. But most of the times it has to do with that conversion. Remember I said a conversion can be whatever you want it to be. It's collecting people's information. Maybe it is watching a video or doing a retail. But if your website or the webpage you're sending people to is not in sync with what your ads are doing, and I think that's what you were talking about with the site links, then you're going to have issue. People are not going to find that. Let me take this for example. So we work with some trades businesses, and we work with a company that does siding, roofing, and windows. And if we were running ad campaigns for this company, and we were running them to a page that was just it was an ads for window replacement, and we sent them to a page from that Google ad that was designed to be about window replacement. We sent them to a web page that was talking about siding, roofing, and windows. We're losing that equation. The equation has to end with a page that's focused on windows and that's focused on conversions. Now, some of you might be sitting there saying, well, how do you design a web page or a landing page that's designed for conversions? Well, I'll make it pretty simple for you. John himself is actually, there's sort of an art to this of creating a page that converts well, but I say this a lot of times when people talk to me about marketing campaigns. They go, I sent all these people to, and I asked, and they didn't do it. Or I posted all this stuff on my Facebook page, but nobody did anything. And I always go, did you ask them to? Did you ask them to do something? And most people, they go, well, no. I go, well, maybe you should. So if you make like this page where all it does is give the information that is necessary for the customer to make a decision to give you their information. And then all throughout the page, all you're doing in that landing page is basically asking people to give you their information. Now, correct if I'm wrong, John, but when you make a landing page, that's one of the reasons why you don't put a lot of information on there. And that's one of the reasons why you don't put a lot of clicks on there. So you can't really leave the landing page. The only thing you can do is give your information or make a purchase or make that call. Is that true?
Absolutely. So you're typically you're not going to be able to leave that landing. The only clickable options on that landing page are going to be a contact form or a phone call.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're 100% right about that. That would be the main reason to have a landing page is there's really only one, maybe two actions someone can take when they're visiting that page. And going back to the information part, I think you got to think through every specific case for every specific ad campaign you're running, because each time you got to think through how much info does this page need.
Right.
Maybe there are some cases where it may need a little more information for someone to want to touch base with that company. Maybe other times not as much. I think you got to think through each time and add information to the landing page accordingly.
Right.
But like you said, always going to be only one or two things the user can do once they're on that. So
yeah, because you're spending all this money on these ads, and don't forget, like, people don't know what your business is all about, and they don't really care. Like, if you're running all these ads on Google, all people know is that those two lines, the headline and those two lines of information and that ad, and they go, that's what I want. And if you take them somewhere and that's not what it is, that's why they're not going to do it. That's why I keep talking about this in terms of an equation. Now, when I go back to our 5 steps, we always talk about finding the right audience and then creating the right content. That is so killer here, because that's exactly what this is. If you find the right people, and that could be, I want to find homeowners who live in Milwaukee who are 40 to 65 years old. Or it could be, I want to find people searching for piano movers in Baltimore. Doesn't matter what that is. When you define who those people are based on their attributes or their search attributes, the content you create in your ad needs to be very clear as to what these people are going to get when they click on it, whether it's a Facebook ad or a Google ad. But it doesn't stop there. And that's where I think a lot of people stop and they go, we'll just send them our website, or just send them our Facebook page. They'll figure it out. No, they won't. That's why when you create a landing page or a lead form, and we'll talk about that next, you take them to the place that says, I'm looking for a piano mover in Baltimore and I need it tomorrow. And great. Our ad says, piano movers in Baltimore available 24 hours a day, no waiting. Great. I click on that ad. As soon as I go to the landing page, it should say, click here to make an appointment for your piano to be moved today or tomorrow. And that's all I want. And I click on that. I don't care about that the guy who owns the company is, is a professional football player. It doesn't matter. I don't know where am I getting this from, John? This is crazy. But my point is, it doesn't matter, because I'm trying to convert in a conversion in an equation. And so I would always tell people, that's why you always start with your audience. Get in your audience's head, then create content for them. Don't make content first. Figure out what it is you're trying to do, then make the content to the audience. But don't stop at that point. The equation ends when you get a conversion. And look, this isn't easy to do. It's complicated. How many times, John, do we create an equation for a customer on Google or Facebook or whatever, and we have to go back and adjust everything? I mean, all the time.
Probably all the time, right? I would say you're never going to just create a Google ad campaign and it's just going to work perfectly. And this ties into what we were talking about with keywords at the beginning of the conversation, is that's why that's so important. And this ties into audience, right? It's so important to look at those keywords and look at what keywords you're paying for, because you may go in there and say, wait, just because of the way Google utilizes keywords, and we may have talked about that before, the different keyword variations in Google, but let's say you go with something like a broad match keyword. Google's going to put a lot of different variances on that keyword. So again, if you just looked at the data at a high level, you're going to see one thing. But as you get more granular and look down at, hey, what keywords am I actually paying for? You're going to see, oh, that's not what I thought. It might, right. Again, going back to, well, I think in Google Ads, audience almost could be interchanged with search keywords that people are searching for. You may say, wow, this is not right. I'm not getting the right audience for this campaign. You got to adjust.
Absolutely. And you adjust everything. You sometimes you adjust the audience, and then then you adjust the content and the ads and the content you're putting out there, and then you adjust the landing pages, and sometimes you're doing it all at once. But that's you guys, what I'm trying to tell you is that's a strategy. That's a system. If you just throw stuff out there and then you don't know what to adjust. But if you throw stuff out there, you do your homework and you say, I'm going to start with this audience, with this content, with this conversion. This is how I'm going to measure the successes through this conversion. Then you go back and you say, you know what? I think the content is great, but I think my audience is wrong. Change the audience, do a little better. Hey, you know what? I still think the content is great. I think the audience is good, but you know what? I think our landing page or our conversion metric needs to be adjusted. I mean, we've done stuff where we've changed, moved a video from the left-hand side of a page to the right-hand side of a page and got more conversions. Now, I don't know why. I mean, I can't answer all these questions all the time, but the point was we realized something needed to change, and we did our best homework as marketing professionals to figure out what we thought that was. And so we changed it, and then it works. And sometimes you can, the beauty of this is when you figure this out, man, you can let this stuff ride. I mean, it's not like you can set it and forget it all the time, but once it's noticeable if you're tracking it the right way. That's why we say number 5 in our system. Analyze the results. If you can look at Google Analytics or whatever and know how to convert, what's converting, you know where to put your money now. You have it set up. So I want to go back to this other thing about you talked about the contact form and opposed to the phone call. So again, I think the major conversions we're talking about here is make a call, right? Fill out our form, give us information, or make a purchase. Those are probably the big 3 when it talks about conversions. But on social media, it's just no different. And one of the big things that we use in social media a lot is these lead generation forms. And a lot of what these are basically is they're a way for Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn to collect your information as a prospective customer who's interested in this information without having to leave the social media site. Because if they leave the social media site, they make less money. They don't want you to leave Facebook. They don't want you to leave LinkedIn. They want you to stay there, because the longer you stay there, theoretically, the more money they make. So what you have to do in those cases, and this is similar to a landing page, how much information you ask for and how you ask for it makes a big difference. Because here's where it comes into play a lot. John and I talk about the tire kickers as opposed to the quality, to the serious people, the serious prospective clients. This is called quality of leads. Because just like John said before, he can get you a ton of clicks on your website. Trust me. If you need somebody to get you a ton of clicks to your website, John's your guy. He's also the guy if you want to get quality leads to your website too, because him along with our team understands how to create that equation so that we're asking enough questions in the right way. So how do we do this? We ask a series of open-ended questions that you have to type in or you can't submit the form, and a series of multiple choice or autofill questions. So that, because if all we ask for is something really quick, hey, here's autofill your name, because Facebook will autofill your name, your email address, and maybe your zip code where you live and your email address. And so if you're like, oh, I'm interested in this product, and then you just autofill everything and you send it in, that's not going to be a quality lead. But if you have all that information in autofill, and then you say, oh, by the way, you select one of these options from our drop-down menu. Well, if I'm not really that interested, I'm not going to do that. And then if I ask a couple of open-ended questions that I'm asking you specifically what this is, and you have to type that in, now I'm weeding out the tire kickers, and I'm getting to more of a situation where I'm getting people that clicked on my ad, the right people, the right content, and now I'm converting them. They're more likely to buy or do what it is I want them to do to convert if they're invested a little bit in the process. And now, John, I know you guys set up a lot of that stuff on landing pages. How do you decide how many questions to ask, what kind of information to do, or how long, or how much information to put on a landing page so that you're not getting tire kickers, you're actually getting quality people?
I think that is going to more tie into keywords.
Okay.
than it is. I think in the case you described on social media, I feel what you're doing, creating those barriers to entries is a great idea, because we've talked about this before. Ads on social media are more like a billboard.
Right.
Ads on Google Ads are more like the yellow pages. Someone is already looking for that search term.
Right.
So I would say that the keywords then are what you need to look at to help weed people out that might not be serious buyers or someone who's seriously looking for that business's services.
Yeah. So
I think that's where you'd want to focus. The same way, it makes total sense to me that on social media, you're going to focus on the form itself.
Right. And for example, and I was just thinking about this, I think what you're saying is, if somebody types in, what's the best, who's the best plumber? I live in Chicago. Who's the best plumber in Chicago? Right. That is a different search than, emergency plumber available 24 hours a day. Right. Or if they literally type in, I need a plumber to come into my house now. Right. It's that search that, and you might look at this and some people might say, well, if somebody's typing in who's the best plumber, then wouldn't that mean that they need one? Not necessarily. There's so many searches on Google that you really need to go as specific as you possibly can. Sure. And this, we can do a whole show on how much you'll spend on a click as opposed to a conversion. But when you're doing this, you really can calculate your ROI really fast, because if you know how much you're paying per click and you know how much money you're getting from a conversion, it's pretty simple. But if you don't know what you're getting for a conversion, or if you don't know how that path was, right, that you're never going to be able to calculate your ROI. So you weed people out through those search terms and through your conversion metric, your conversion tool, right, your landing page, your lead form, whatever it is. But again, setting those conversions up and making sure you have a conversion metric to use, I think is so absolutely so necessary to run a successful marketing campaign. Because I think if you don't, I think it's almost impossible to really gauge with the success of the campaign. I mean, branding is great and clicks and stuff are great. And maybe some of you, that's all you need. Maybe you're in a market where you're like, look, I just need clicks to my site and I just need video views and I don't care about any of that stuff. That's great. But I think most business owners are like, I'm going to run ads on 4 different websites. I want to know which one of those got me the most clicks, but not only that, which people that came from those 4 sites spent the most money and made the most best return on my investment. The only way you can do that is by tracking conversions, right? So, John, any other thoughts on conversions for people maybe who had never thought about marketing campaigns this way? Tips, advice for people on that?
I think the main point you're talking about here, Joe, is you should have conversions. I would say you should have that set up. That's my main advice. And I know it's complicated. It could be complicated to set it up. But I think you should. It's worth it. I mean, it really will. I want to say make the difference for your campaigns. It'll help you so much better understand your campaigns. Right. So I just definitely recommend having them.
Yeah. So so I guess what we're saying is when you guys are setting up your digital marketing campaigns, you define your audience, create that content, make sure you have your branding elements in line, have those budgets and those analytics. And when you're doing the analytics, define what is success for you. That's how you define a conversion. It might say conversion on the screen because that's how you've put the code in there, and that's how Google and Facebook and all these places are doing this. But that conversion is defined by you, and you need to know how many you're getting, whether it's a small, little, easy to do conversion or it's something really, really complicated and expensive. It doesn't matter. That's what you need to know. Without that information, you're kind of blind sometimes as to what you're doing. So again, you may need a developer or you may need a marketing person, or if you have, go to YouTube. Type in, Facebook pixel, UTM codes on Google. Some of this stuff is really easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I'm not trying to scare you. I mean, some of the stuff is pretty simple and to do. As if you've got, how to build a WordPress page, you can throw some code in there. Other stuff's a little more complicated, but it's worth it. It really is. It's worth the time and energy to do it before you start a marketing campaign. So, hey, John, thanks so much for being here today. We appreciate your insight on this as always. Thanks everybody for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast. We like to put out this information as much as we possibly can. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions or if there's something we can help you with, please contact us. Go to relevantelephant.net. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or LinkedIn. Shoot us a message. If you took time to listen to us, we'll be more than happy to take the time to listen to you and be happy to respond to any help you need on your digital marketing campaigns. So until next time, thanks again for listening. This is Joe Sanders saying, stop posting, start marketing.